It's the finals in the biggest tournament of your entire career, and you're up against your greatest rival. A rivalry so great that it even transcends time. This is the story on how Ash's Incineroar, who had everything stacked up against him to fail, rose to the occasion and saw his true potential. But to understand all this, we have to take it back to the beginning of the Alola region, where Incineroar wasn't Incineroar, where he was just a Litten. See Litten for a while in the Pokemon anime, and it wasn't until a later episode where Team Rocket was after Ash's Rowlet and Populo, where they got lost in the forest and met Litten. These Pokemon explained to Litten that they were lost and they were trying to get back to their trainer, which was Ash, and Litten actually led them to their home, where the Scoutland lived, which was under a bridge, not the home we last saw them at. Litten comes to Scoutland and asks his master on what he should do with these Pokemon, and after Scoutland took a closer look at these Pokemon, he told Litten to help them return back to Ash, to repay the favor that Ash did to them a while back. So while Litten tries to lead them back to Ash, they end up encountering Team Rocket again and getting captured. But there's a twist. While Litten was captured, he let Meowth know his backstory, letting him know that he's the way he is because of all the conditions he was brought up, and all the Pokemon in the area started crying since Litten's backstory was so sad. So sad to the point where Team Rocket felt bad for Litten and offered him a spot on the team, as long as Litten just left behind the Populo and Rowlet. Populo and Rowlet were scared on the decision Litten was going to make, because yes, Litten's freedom would be guaranteed if he goes to Team Rocket, but then they would 100% have no way of getting out of the cage. Litten ends up accepting the deal with Team Rocket since he just met these Pokemon today, and while Meowth was going to free Litten, he double crosses them and frees Rowlet and Populo. And they end up doing a group attack and sending off Team Rocket, and Ash comes upstairs and finally finds his Pokemon who went missing, and they let him know that it's because of Litten that they're saved. Ash tries to thank Litten and ask him what's up with Scoutland, but Litten, who is still scared of humans, leaves and runs away without telling Ash anything, but Ash still has an open mind saying that he'll meet Litten again. And Ash was right. Him up and drags him all the way to the Pokemon Center awaiting Nurse Joy's care. And gives him a heart-to-heart conversation, letting Ash know that he has to be there for Litten for what's about to happen, since Litten's about to be all alone. Litten ended up bringing Snoutland back to their home, and Litten was practicing the move Fire Fang, not yet perfected, of Alola trying to find Scoutland, since he was trying to hang on to the glimmer of hope that Scoutland just ran away or on because the single leaf fell off the tree, landing onto the couch. And then it started raining. Raining very hard, since sometimes Pokemon can't cry, and symbolically this rain was making sure Litten's tears were felt, and it was a pretty sad scene in the Pokemon anime. Litten's biggest challenge was yet to come. In a later episode where Ash and Litten were chilling and watching TV, they end up seeing an Incineroar on TV at the Battle Royale, and he's got 20 consecutive wins. This lights a passion in Litten, since someone a part of his bloodline is going so crazy on television, so Litten pulls up to the Battle Royale and challenges Incineroar to a battle. And even though Litten wasn't supposed to hop on the Battle Royale stage, Incineroar plays along since he sees a burning passion in this young Pokemon. And this Incineroar put Litten into a pack. Litten jumped into the battle using Fire Fang, Incineroar caught it and used Throat Chop on Litten, one-shotting him. Litten was pretty sad from this defeat, but it also gave him motivation to want to beat Incineroar, and Incineroar acknowledged Litten as a rival since he hasn't met a Pokemon this fired up to get strong. The next day, Master Royale and Incineroar pulled up on Ash and Litten's block and challenged him to another battle because they wanted Litten to get stronger at a faster rate. When they got into the heat of the battle, Incineroar was completely dominating, but he didn't want to just mess around. He was actually trying to teach Litten how to use some of his moves, and this battle made Litten be able to master the move Flame Charge. Even though Litten now mastered this move, Incineroar took it a step too far. He started crushing Litten with his bare hands. This was so tough on Litten that it forced him to evolve into Torracat, unlocking a huge boost in strength with this evolution. They continued fighting the battle, going neck and neck, but in the end, Incineroar used Throat Chop to show Torracat he's not that guy and prove that Torracat has a long way to go. Even though Ash and Torracat lost, some of them are really sad because they knew that they had the potential to completely beat these guys in the future and they just had to get stronger. But earlier in this video, I mentioned that this rivalry actually transcends time, and that's actually true. In a later episode, Celebi, the time legendary Pokemon, sends Ash back into the past, where Incineroar and Master Royale are kids. When Ash meets them, he doesn't recognize this as Master Royale, and there's no way Master Royale would recognize this as Ash since he never met him in the timeline yet. But Master Royale challenges Ash to a battle with his Litten while Ash is using his Torracat, and Torracat basically gets his get back in the past because he completely bodies this Litten. Master Royale was pretty sad at this defeat, but he vowed to become just as strong as Ash's Torocat, which is ironic because in the future he definitely is. Master Royale makes a vow to Litten that they never want to lose another battle again, and Ash is pretty happy at their resolution, but before they get to change names, Celebi sends Ash back to his proper timeline. And when Ash gets back to the present, if it wasn't obvious enough, Master Royale is actually Professor Kukui. Now, a lot of time have passed, and Ash and Torocat are growing together with a strong bond, and they even make occasional cameos at the Battle Royale to help out Incineroar when he's in a bit of trouble. But it was all leading up to one grand thing, the Alola Pokemon League, where Torocat would want to get his get back on Incineroar to prove that he can beat Incineroar as a Torocat. And this Alola League final battle was hype between Ash and Professor Kukui that they even started off the battle with Torocat and Incineroar. The start of this battle wasn't looking good for Torocat. Incineroar bulked up and got some major buffs, and they were counterattacking everything Torocat was throwing at him. But Torocat wasn't weak either. Incineroar threw out Darkest Lariat. If you didn't know, that's Incineroar's signature move, and Torocat dodges it. Incineroar was pretty happy that Torocat became worthy of a full-on fight, and Incineroar used the move Blast Burn. This move was such a massive ball of fire hurling right towards Torocat, and Torocat tanked it like a champ and absorbed it into the bell on Torocat's neck. Doing this though had some massive effects on Torocat, because yes, it was pretty hyped that Torocat was able to absorb Incineroar's massive fire attack, but Torocat only can do so much, so Ash decided to return it for a bit to rest. Ash sent out Lycanroc to deal with Incineroar for a little bit, which was a pretty smart move on Ash's part. And Lycanroc got a devastating hit on Incineroar, so Professor Kukui sent back Incineroar into his Pokeball to rest so he can have the final battle with Torocat. And this battle was neck and neck with some of the best animation we've seen in a Pokemon battle to date. Incineroar and Torocat were showing us all what fire-type Pokemon are made of. Torocat blasted a Fire Blast at Incineroar, but Incineroar tanked it. Torocat went in to try to finish Incineroar off with one of his signature attacks that he learned from his deceased friend Scoutland, Fire Fang, and it was about to work, but Incineroar caught him. And it seemed like it was over. Torocat was back in the same position he was when he was a Litten, in the hands of Incineroar, helpless and can't do a thing. Incineroar ended up using Throat Chop on Torocat. Everyone thought the battle was over, but Torocat didn't give up. It used one of its strongest moves yet, Revenge. Revenge is a move that if you get hit by it, you end up dealing double damage to your opponent. And that's exactly what happened to Incineroar, inflicting major damage upon him. Both of their lives were hanging on by a thread, and they knew they had to end the battle quickly. Incineroar used Inferno Overdrive and tried to attack Litten with it. Litten powered up his Revenge, and Incineroar used Throat Chop as a final battle, colliding into the fire to decide who the winner is. After both attacks hit, they were both left standing, but Incineroar fell first. Torocat won the battle. Because of Torocat finally being able to complete its goal of defeating Incineroar, it chose to finally evolve into an Incineroar, coming full circle from when it was once a little Litten into a very powerful Incineroar. And funny enough, we actually never really saw Ash use this Incineroar since the season kind of ended and Ash kind of axed this Pokemon, but we won't talk about that. This story is honestly one of my favorites in the Pokemon anime, and honestly I teared up a bit while rewatching some scenes for the anime for this video. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any Pokemon lore.